So, for most of us, buying a new computer is not an impulse purchase, right? We're not doing this with the loose change in our pockets, right? There's too much at stake, right? Financially, productivity-wise, all the rest of it. So what's the best choice? Like so many things in life, it's not a single answer. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of how to decide what is the best computer for you and your situation. Let's get started. No, baby, I don't have any treats. Okay, so, if you have tons of money in your pocket, then maybe it is an impulse purchase for you. But for me, for most of the people in my world, buying a computer is a big deal. There's some significant money involved. There is a lot involved as far as, you're trying to improve productivity. Your current machine isn't cutting it or may have completely died and you may be in a panic. Whoops, hang on. No, puppy, you cannot chew on that. Or maybe your puppy chewed on it. These things all happen. So, that sends everybody scurrying to friends, family, neighbors, all the rest, and the internet, what's the best computer? Okay, well, there's a lot of questions that you need to answer before you get to the right answer for you. Because what might be best for me may not be best for you, or for Mr. Murphy, since he doesn't have thumbs, especially. So let's just first, I like to get everybody on the same page, so let's just cover some terminology first. That I'm going to be referring to, just so that we're all clear about what the heck she's talking about. So when I say laptops, okay, I'm talking about, your clamshell kind of things, right? The things that you're used to seeing business people carry around, a lot of people are carrying around because of portability and all that kind of stuff, which we'll get into. Next up. No, that's the same one. No. See, I was rearranging stuff last minute, and you never do that. Okay, so then we're talking desktops, right? That's some sort of box, different shapes, all that kind of stuff that you plug a monitor into, you plug a keyboard into, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, there are things like all-in-ones and Chromebooks and stuff like that, and we'll cover that a little bit too. Because, again, the right solution may be one of those. And that is the key question here. Even before we get into budget, which absolutely is incredibly important, I won't kid you. But you do want to start with, what do you need to do on your computer, right? There's a big difference between somebody who needs to, answer emails, maybe do a spreadsheet, maybe a presentation, that kind of thing, slides, whatever, and somebody who's doing 3D rendering, or somebody who's doing gaming, or, somebody who's doing live streaming. Very different requirements. So that's a big part of it. Then the other thing is, where are you going to be doing it? If you're going to be doing it, in one place most of the time, that's one answer. If you're going to be doing it in various places, the answer may shift a little bit. If you're a road warrior and you're constantly on the go and you need something you can grab and take with you, obviously that's a completely different thing too. So those are the big ones. Once you decide, even just roughly, which one of those is the way you're going to go, then of course you've got to set your budget, right? And you've got to be realistic about what you can afford. Now, that said, there are certainly options out there. You can make use of different programs that are out there. You can shop certain times of the year and get discounts. The other thing that I rely on, frankly, quite heavily is programs like what Dell offers. So Dell right now, and by the time you see this, it may not be doing it anymore, but for quite a while now, they have offered 12 months, same as cash kind of thing. So basically you can sign up and then you can make a monthly payment, and as long as you get it paid before that window closes, you're not going to pay any interest on it. Frankly, that's been a lifesaver for me several times. So it's definitely something to look at, apply, see if it's an option for you. If not, sometimes you can do a trade-in. Sometimes, like I said, there are sales. So there are ways to be creative. There's also other ways to be creative. So if you are a member of a group or an organization, sometimes they have a way for you to get a certain percentage off. As an example, there's a site called id.me. And if you are a member of certain groups, teachers, military, first responders, that type of thing, you can sign up there, and you do have to go through a verification process. But once you do that, then you can get discounts on all kinds of different products. Now, the thing with that is it's not fixed, right? You go one time and these things are available. You go another time, these things are available. This store is available. So you do have to keep going back in order to try it, but it is another way to save a little money. Other things like using I always have trouble saying this, Rakuten, or, any of those things where, like, that you do get a little cash back for buying if you go through their site. Sometimes that'll help. It's not money saved off the top, but it's money that you could get back, and maybe use for something else. So keep the doors open, right? Keep your mind open. Once you decide on, the first things we talked about, then you can start to look for those to kind of bring it all together. Okay, so let us start with, let me get this out of the way. Let's talk about what some of the pros and cons are of these different things, right? So laptops, right, are super mega awesome, right? Because they're lightweight, they're portable, they're powerful as anything these days, right? You can do all kinds of stuff with them, right? So you're pretty used to these. They come in different sizes. Now, of course, these can get heavy, okay? So, like, for example, my day gig has given me a laptop, and because I do development, because I do videos, because I do a lot of things, I have more than the standard laptop. And frankly, the thing is a beast and it weighs a ton, and I try not to move it as much as possible because it is heavy. The pro is it has the monitor, it has the keyboard, it's got Wi-Fi figured out. You can plug it in, over Ethernet if you want to do that. So again, lots of flexibility for that. The other end of the spectrum is your desktop. The desktops are obviously larger, but they do come in different sizes. I mean, you can get, the little ones, which is kind of a trade-off. Or you can get, the bigger size towers is usually how they're referred to. There's different ways to buy those. Sometimes you can buy it as a package. You can get the monitor with it and the keyboard and the mouse and all together. Or if you don't need all that, like if you've already got monitors and all that kind of stuff, you can save some nice money by just buying the box itself if whoever you're buying from makes that an option. And many people do. Many different sites do. So another good way to save money, but you get more for it. When it comes to, 2-in-1s or Chromebooks, that kind of stuff, basically they look like laptops. They function like laptops. They've just got different levels of functionality, right? So the 2-in-1, the benefit of that is it works. So that this happens to be a 2-in-1. Oops, sorry. That was probably a big noise for you. So it functions as a laptop, right? You open it up, you've got all the usual things, right? But now, don't do this with a non-2-in-1. Only do this if you're sure you've got a 2-in-1. This also works in tablet mode, right? I can fold it back, and I can use it this way, right? Or I can use it, on my desk as a tent, right? So this way, which is great for watching movies, by the way. So it's the best of both worlds. Now, obviously when you're in this mode, you don't have access to the keyboard, but this is a touch screen, so you can do all that kind of stuff on there. The other thing that has started to happen with these is that even if it doesn't come with a stylus, you can still use one. So what is a stylus? Stylus is, Apple calls them pens. Let me get my face out of here so maybe it'll focus. No, because it's tracking my face. But anyway, I can show you another way. But basically, it's a pen is for all intents and purposes. Now there's a couple of categories of these things. So let me bring up this. So this technically is a stylus, right? And this is a stylus that you can use with any touch screen, your phone, tablets, all those kinds of things. Now, this for me is not a real stylus, although they call them this. They call them styluses. Some people call them pens also. The difference being that it's got this rubber end on it. Let me see. I think we've got one that kind of zooms in a little bit better, don't we? No, maybe not. Oh, because it's off screen. Hang on. Okay. So it's got this little rubber thing at the bottom. As soon as I but over on the side there, you can see, it's got the little rounded piece on it. And so what that's doing in this case, this is duplicating or replicating or making do as touch, right? It's read by the touch screen like your finger is touching it. Now, these are actually quite useful because what people don't always realize when they go into this is that when you go, here, I'll use my phone. Okay, right, so when you go to put your hand on the phone to do something, what ends up happening is you're covering a lot of the phone with your hand, right? So with this kind of stylus, and this won't work because it's not that kind, but with this kind of stylus with the little bumper on it, instead of covering up all of the phone, right, with this, and I have fairly small hands, but it still covers up a lot, you can get a little farther away, right, and you're still able to touch. Oops, hang on a second. Okay. Take 3. Okay, so I had a power outage. I don't know if it went all the way out. It went, all the lights and everything went out for me, but it looks like we're still live on YouTube and Facebook. So we're just going to keep going. I'll back up to what I was talking about. I do apologize, and I will redo this video so that it makes more sense instead of the train wreck, unless the train wreck entertained you, in which case I could leave it. Okay, but you should be able to hear me now. Sorry about that, and thank you, Lyle, for letting me know, because I could have gone on for 45 minutes without any audio, but at least, hey, we have the captions, right? So captions are good. Okay, so yeah, so the stylus like this is great. You could use it on any touch device. They're super, super reasonable, right? This is $7. Oh, see that? I knew there was another way to bring this up. So that's the little rounded thing I was talking about. And it just replaces your finger. So this is $7, and you get 10 in all kinds of pretty colors. And so that's great. That serves a great purpose. It does not give you that fine motor control. This stylus that I have here that you see me waving around all the time is for my Wacom tablet, which is connected to my computer. You can do this wirelessly, but I don't trust wireless, especially when I'm streaming. It's enough problems when the electricity goes out. The thing about this is it gives you much more control. It's fine control. It's got a rocker switch on it, so you can program it to do things. Some of them have an eraser on the end. That they have mechanics in the bottom that work as an eraser that the tablet can read. That, to be super specific about it, okay? So that's why I love these, and that's the difference between the other ones that we're looking at right here. Actually, is that, yeah, so, okay. This and this with wire. One of the cool things that's happening now is there's standardization happening. So it used to be that when you bought one of these touch screens, right, if your manufacturer did not give you a stylus with the device, you couldn't use a stylus. You could just use it as a touchscreen. You could use the touchpad and you could use the keys, but you didn't, again, have this kind of tool, which particularly for this kind of device that you can use in both modes was kind of frustrating. There is now happening in the market change, okay? So they are starting to come out with, at this point, semi-generic styluses. Okay, so this is the one that I purchased that works with my Dell. This is the one that came with my Wacom tablet that I'm using. So to you guys, it looks, almost identical, right? So they've got a real fine point on them. I wish this would focus. It probably won't because it's too small. But if we do it this way, there we go. Okay, so they've got nubs on them that are replaceable, and they are super fine control. They're pressure sensitive, all that kind of good stuff. When you're holding these, so the Wacom one is very much plastic. The cool thing about the Wacom line, just as an aside, is that the stylus doesn't need any battery, never needs charging. Everything is done from the tablet. It's kind of freaking magic. The one that I've got there are nubs, John. Yes, there are. The one that I've got now for my Dell, it's heavier, okay, and there is a battery in it, so it does have to get changed, but that's actually the same for my Surface Pro. I'm not kidding when I say I love styluses. So, that's another thing, and that's another factor to think about when you're thinking about which computer is best for you. Do you need or do you want a stylus, right? Do you need that kind of control? Do you like to write notes by hand on your computer? You can do that with these. So I said that, there's some changes coming. And they're coming. It's just a little bit fractured at the moment. And that's typical, right? When something new like this starts to happen, it does end up a little fractured. So if you're going to go this route, the thing that's important is to make sure you get the right stylus for your computer. I think right now there's 3 different standards that are being worked on. So like even just for the Dells, like there's a bunch of different pens, and so you need to make sure you get the right model pen for whatever device you're using. Okay, so this one is completely different from this one and won't work on all of the devices, so you just need to be aware of that. But you do have that nice fine motor control. Some of them are programmable in certain apps. It's just it's a level of input. It's a different type of input that makes a big difference for some people. For some people, it doesn't mean anything, and you don't need it. The prices on these for the newer computers are all over the place right now because the market is kind of trying to figure out what's going to be the standard. Some of them, like this one, is like $35. The one that I had to get for mine was almost $70. So, But it's nice to know that there's another option out there, in case it is something that, like I said, you want or you need or you've been curious about. It's a good time to go ahead and try that. Okay? All right. Hopefully the lights stay on. Wow, it is really bright in here. I may just, well, yeah, what the hell. We're going to roll the dice and try to bring that down because, wow, this is way bright. But while I do that, I can start to talk about the differences. So if you get a laptop, it's small, it's light. You can spend, frankly, as much money on a laptop as you can on a desktop. And that's, configuration and screen quality and how much memory and whether it's got, what kind of graphics card it's got in it, all that kind of stuff will all play a factor. And they can be incredibly powerful. There are laptops that they sell, and they're not lying. There are laptops that are available that are called desktop replacements, right? They are super powerful. They'll do 80% of what a desktop can do, and we'll get into that in a second. Why can I never find this? Okay. So you can do a lot with them. You can use them for gaming. You can, to a certain degree, use them for, well, you can certainly use them for graphic design, that kind of thing. Video rendering, kind of, sort of, as long as you're not doing too much else on it or anything else, depending on the configuration you got. Hang on, let me just gonna bring, oh my God, that's so much better. Okay. I mean, it was bright for you. It was really bright for me. So there's that. Now, the one caveat that I always tell people when we're having this discussion is laptops are great. Love them. Everybody wants them. They feel like, okay, something I can put away, and only take it out when I need it. All these things feel very enticing about a laptop. And it's all true. But there's two things, okay? One is, I can't tell you the number of people that I have helped through this process who fell in love with a laptop and bought it, and then the next time I saw this person, they had that laptop plugged into a hub and 2 other monitors, and they had an external keyboard. Folks, if you're going to do that, then just get yourself a desktop and be done with it. Because once you start plugging all that stuff into it, I promise you're not moving that laptop a whole lot, because you're not unplugging all that stuff every time. So think about, be honest with yourself about what you're going to need and what you're going to do with it. Now, there are docking stations you can get that do make that easier, because there are situations where, you do want to have that, but most of the time you are grabbing and going. I'm just saying, like, the people who buy these things and then never move them, I'm like, okay, you could have gone another way. The other reason for that is people tend to be frustrated. Right? They buy a laptop and I hear from them like 2 or 3 years later and they're like, it's running slow, it keeps crashing, blah, blah, blah. I have this desktop, I've had it for 5 years, it keeps running. Yes. Okay? Yes. Because by design, by the nature of it being a laptop, okay, if you are taking it with you, it's getting banged around, okay, so things get loose, it's getting more abuse, right, more wear and tear. That has an impact on the life of the device. Also, the fact that it's probably going from hot to cold more. If you're going to use a laptop, make sure you don't go through temperature extremes too often without letting it normalize before you use it. Another side tip. The other reality of laptops is they do not last as long as desktops. They just don't. And I don't think they ever will, especially because we keep making them thinner, which we don't really need. But anyway, that's a selling thing. Because they're tight, right? There's not a whole lot of space in here. And so you've got smaller components, but they're all getting hotter and they're all sharing that heat, and heat is not the friend of electronics. And so the reality of it is, because everything's in this tight space and it's trying to do all this stuff and it's trying to run these high-res monitors and all this other thing, it shortens the life of it. That's just the way it is. I burn through phones much faster than the people in my world because I use this thing like a computer. So I'm abusing the daylights out of it on a regular basis. And I know that when I'm doing that. And I'm accepting the fact that it's not going to last as long as somebody who just buys it to use it for the standard kind of stuff. So absolutely, laptops are great. If a laptop is what you want, if a laptop is what you need, go for it, by all means. Just understand that you're not going to get the life out of it that you would out of a desktop. Okay? I know that makes people unhappy, but I prefer to make you unhappy now than make you unhappy after a purchase. So, for whatever that's worth, that's what we're talking about. And I'm, trying to give you all the information up front so that you can make the best decision for you. Okay? We're still friends? All right. So let's talk about desktops. Desktops, are powerful, right? They're much more customizable than laptops. Okay, that's another thing with laptops. There's usually, if you're buying from the manufacturer in particular, there's usually a little bit of customization. You can probably up the memory, a couple other things, maybe the hard drive size. In general, most of the public are never ever going to update their laptop themselves. The one thing that I do see some people do, and it's relatively easy to do, is update the memory, okay? Because that's pretty easy to get to in most laptops. But for the most part, when you buy a laptop, you're not going to switch out the hard drive. You're not going to change the monitor on it, right? You're not going to put a new keyboard on it. All of these are things that you can do with a desktop that are incredibly easy. A lot of it is just plug and play, right? You want a new monitor, you get a new monitor, you take the cables, you plug one into the power, you plug one into the computer, boom, you're ready to go. Also, because they are bigger, you have space for growth, right? So if you start off with one hard drive and you decide you want a second or a third, there's usually bays available that you can go ahead and plug those in. Some people are more or less comfortable with that, some people hire people to do that, but it's just nice to have that option. Like I talked about before, if you have monitors and keyboards and mice and tablets and things that you like and you just want to upgrade the computer itself, you can just do the tower and keep all the rest. So you don't have to buy a keyboard and a mouse and all that when you buy a desktop computer. Some come bundled, others you can just go ahead and buy independently. So again, more flexibility. Because of the size of it, because the case is bigger, there is more airflow. More airflow means it's going to be cooler over the space of time, assuming that you're not putting it on top of your space heater, right? Or over the vent that gives your house heat. If you're keeping it in a temperature normal situation, it's just by virtue of being a desktop going to have a longer life. Don't drop it. Don't drop kick it. Don't let the puppy, bunny, or kitty, chew on the cables. But if you do, you can change them. But, so that is the other side of the coin. And that is why I suggest to people that if they are looking for something that's going to last longer and a desktop works in their situation, that is probably the way to go. So the equation, not really. You can spend the same amount of money on a desktop or on a laptop. You will get less power, less features on the laptop than you will out of the desktop. Okay? The inverse is if you were going to go and spend a lot of money on a laptop and you put that towards a desktop, you're going to get much more for your money just by virtue of what it is. And you will have that expandability option going forward. So that for me is the biggest piece of the puzzle, is the fact that one, you can grab and go. The other is a little bit longer life and definitely more expandable over time, right? If you, start off with a standard keyboard and decide you want the pretty colored lights keyboard, you unplug one, you plug in the other, and you're good to go. Laptop, not so much. Not really going to happen. Okay? Hang on one sec. I won't kid you. Losing power during a show, kind of stressful. Okay. So those are pretty much what people are going to buy. Lyle, you said that you were thinking about this. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and jump in. If you want to talk about your specific situation, I'm happy to kind of walk you through it. It would be a good example for people if you want to do that. If you are not Lyle and you're not John and you're not here right now live, you obviously can go ahead and put your questions, your comments in the comment section, and I do come back to those. The other thing is, if you want, you can always reach out to me at yourtechcoach.net. There's a contact form there. I'm happy to answer questions for you. All I ask is that if you have questions or suggestions for the show or content you want me to, the topic you want me to cover, just let me know that in the form. And if you need a fast answer, give me a way to get back in touch with you, and then I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, all I can do is answer it in a future show. Okay? All right, let's keep going. So, one more option worth considering, one more option worth considering is a Chromebook. So if you are looking for something to do the basics, right? Actually, let me set this up the right way. Okay, so let's look at, come back. Let's just look at pricing, right? So a laptop. Okay, now I'm just going to show you Dell just because then it's more of a apples to apples comparison. Sorry, no pun intended. So laptop prices, can range. So, we've got, workstation. So this is more of a desktop replacement, 26, 15, 17, And then when you start to configure it, then you get it down to like, $1,000 or so, but it's going to, it's only 4 GB. It doesn't have a great graphics card in it. It's only got an i5 processor, all that kind of stuff. So trade-offs. If you go and you look at, I should talk about that too. Yes. Okay. Thank you for reminding me. If you start to look at, the desktop, okay, the numbers start off pretty much the same, but you're getting more, right? You're getting, 8 gig, you're getting a terabyte drive. It's the 11th gen. Now, this is still an i5, but you can, of course, update that. And then you can come down here and you can customize the daylights out of the thing, right? You've got all kinds of options, and you can just pick the boxes until you get the price and the combination that you want. If, however, you're just looking for something that is going to let you do email, surf the web a little bit, maybe do the occasional spreadsheet or whatever, you have another option. And it's an option that I personally don't think enough people consider. And it's an option that literally can save you thousands of dollars. So we're going to talk about it. And that is Chromebooks. Chromebooks are freakishly useful. I have been amazed at how much, and of course I didn't bring my Chromebook in here, but I'm constantly amazed at how much I can do with it. And for me, the Chromebook is my grab and go kind of device, right? I'm not going to be doing live streaming from it. I'm not going to be doing high-end programming or graphics or any of that kind of stuff. But, if I want something, grab and go, do some research, that kind of stuff, it's phenomenal. And you can see $250, 198, 196. And you can get these with or without a stylus. Also, that stylus I showed you before, will work with a lot of these, either the one with the little rubber thing, or you can get that customizable one. So it is absolutely worth taking at least a minute to think about whether or not a Chromebook is right for you. Because, if you can get, okay, maybe not a use, so hang on. Okay, so we're going to have all the things. We're going to have power outage. We're going to have coughing fits. Maybe I'll lose my voice too. This is definitely an exciting show. So let's just take this as sort of a median, right? So for $170, right, you can get a 32 gig Chromebook, HP, completely reliable. This will surf the web, answer email. You can do spreadsheets on it. Like, you can do a lot of your basic day-to-day kind of stuff on this kind of machine. If you are hiring for staff, right, and maybe you don't want to spend, $2,000 a head to do email and spreadsheets and that kind of thing, it would at least be worth an experiment to have a couple people try life on a Chromebook and see how well it does. I've done this myself, and John's heard me go on and on about this because I am constantly amazed at just how much I can do on it. So I'm not selling Chromebooks, right? No, none of the things I'm showing you are sponsored in any way, shape, or form. I just like to make sure that people get the equipment that they need at the level they need for the price that they can afford and get their job done. Whatever that job is, whether it's, work, school, life, whatever. So this is definitely something I don't think enough people think of, which I have mentioned. I think you should. So for whatever it's worth, while you're out there, whatever you're looking for, it might be worth trying a Chromebook. For $170, it is not a bad way to go. Okay, so Lyle is holding his broken Chromebook right now. I'm sorry that it's broken. That makes me sad, but again, do you want to spend, $1,800 on a laptop and break it? Or do you want to spend $170 and maybe break it, right? So, it's a trade-off. Now, okay, so Lyle, you use both kinds, right? I'm sure you've used at least the Chromebook and a laptop, maybe also a desktop. How much work were you able to do on your Chromebook? I'm just curious, a scale of 1 to 10, how usable was it for you for your day-to-day computing needs and or your business? In the meantime, I've converted John, right? She has seen what I can do with it, and he's seen what I can do with it, and he's surprised too. Yeah, I knew it was going to do email. I was fine with that. I knew I was going to get email taken care of out of it, and that was fine, and that was great, and, that's really where I started. And then, of course, being who I am, I had to push the limits a little bit, and I had to try this and try that, and can I edit photos? Can I update my website, which is on Squarespace? Yes, yes, yes. All these things are yes. The other thing that the Chromebook definitely spoiled me for all other equipment is the fact that you open it and it's ready to go. Right? There's not a massive boot up time. There's not any of that nonsense. You open it and it is ready to rock and roll. I get frustrated now with fast laptops because it's like, oh, what do you mean I have to wait 3.5 seconds? Okay, so Lyle has used the Chromebook for day to day, and on a scale of 1 to 10, he's giving it a 6.57. I think that's a very realistic way to evaluate it, right? Is it going to do everything that you can do on a laptop or desktop? No. Is it going to do a heck of a lot? Mm-hmm. So it depends on what it is that you need to do. And that's where, we started, right? What do you need this device to do for you, right? And I'm a big fan of writing it down. I'm a big fan of lists. So thank you, Lyle. That's very helpful. It's good that they hear it from somebody besides me. So you can look at it. You can figure it out from that standpoint. You can give it a try. Like I said, it's not a massive investment. And maybe you can even borrow one from somebody, which I've done. I've loaned mine out for a little time to give people a chance to test drive it because it really is way more functional than you might realize. And like, for example, I know with everything that's gone on in the past year, I know a lot of kids that have been doing the remote schooling thing just on Chromebooks because that's all they needed. So worth thinking about, worth considering. Now, there are some other things out there. So we did talk about, the difference between the laptop, right, and the 2-in-1. If you're going to get a laptop and you want to use it for, entertainment or surfing the web and all that, it is definitely, to me, worth looking at the 2-in-1s and the standard laptops because it really is handy to be able to turn it into tablet mode. When you just want to read something or flip through something, it's really nice. It's also really good for watching movies and live streams, YouTube content, because you can turn it into a tent. You can have it sit on your desk. Oops, sorry. Right? And it is very comfortable to watch. Also, if you're using a stylus, it is very comfortable. I mean, obviously not this way, but it is very comfortable to draw and write and mark up documents that way. So if you are going this way, that is definitely something to consider, again, if that is the type of use case that you have for your device. Now, I'm gonna mention one more thing as we wrap this up, and Lyle, by all means, I'm sincere. If you want to walk through what your use case is and what you're trying to shop for, I'm more than happy to help you. But in the meantime, while he's thinking about whether or not he wants to go through that through chat, there are devices out there called all-in-ones, and oh my God, will you stop asking me to call you? I'll call you. Don't call me. Thank you. Okay, so there are these desktop computers, right? They're not laptops. They're not full desktops in my view of life because they don't have a standalone tower or box for you to use. So basically with an all-in-one, it looks on your desk like you have a monitor, right? That you have plugged a keyboard and a mouse or tablet into that you're working off of, because either attached to the back or inside the case for the monitor is the rest of the computer. And many people fall in love with these things, right? Because, they look pretty, okay? Those of you who have been around for a while know how I feel about the pretty factor, but okay, it's a factor for people, so let's just deal with that. And yes, they're elegant, they're stylish, they tend to be a little bit more expensive. Not a whole lot, but a little bit more. Like if you compared a desktop with this spec and an all-in-one with this spec, the all-in-one is usually a little bit more money. The thing for me about these is you lose that benefit of the desktop of being able to upgrade it on the fly because it's a sealed unit, right? It's a monitor, so they don't make it easy for you to get in there and change out the hard drive or anything. And it's in a small space, just like the laptops, maybe even a little smaller. So you do have the heat issues and all that kind of stuff. And when your computer dies, right, everything's gone. Okay, there's nothing. Like you can't keep the monitor and reuse it. You could keep the keyboard and the mouse, but other than that. So personally, I tend to not recommend them for people. Now, there are people who want them, in their in the entryway to their business, for the receptionist, because they are trying to project a certain feel as people come to their business, and that's fine. That makes sense. There are some people who, the aesthetics of their home require this to be there, and that's fine too. No judgments. I'm just saying that, as you're going through your checklist, if, long life and all, and, upgradability and expandability and all that are important to you, if they're at the top of the list, if they're the top 3, then you're probably not going to want an all-in-one. Just saying. So just something else to keep in mind. It's another form factor you see out there. For a while, I thought they were dying off, but it looks like they're coming back again. So we do need to have this conversation. So I did want to mention that before I forgot again. Okay, so it looks like Lyle is willing to jump in. So let's see here. Okay, so Lyle is looking for something a bit more than a Chromebook, because then I can install more apps than the Chrome apps, and something that won't be too slow. Okay. So, do you want it to be, so you want a laptop, form factor? Do you want the 2-in-1, or are you happy with just a standard clamshell laptop kind of thing? And what kind of apps are you looking to install? Just to help narrow it down. The speed, fortunately, is pretty good. I mean, okay, so if speed is important, just putting it out there, you're probably not going to be able to get a laptop for like $300, $400, $500 that's going to meet the speed thing. But if you start to get to the $600 mark, or a little bit higher, then the speeds are usually better. Are you looking Mac, or are you by the way, I should have said this up front. See, I really have to redo this, I guess. All of the things I've talked about, while I've been showing, Windows PCs as examples, it really is device agnostic. Okay. It is the same thought process is whether you want a Mac or a PC. To me, that's just preference kind of thing. Sorry, I just lost the thought. Oh, well, it'll come back or it won't. So, yeah, as far as speed goes, they're pretty good. But yeah, if you could just give me like one or two examples of software that you're looking to install, that would help. And let me know whether or not you want a stylus. If you don't care about the stylus, actually, I'll just jump into that assumption, then you may or may not want a touchscreen. Touchscreens do make them more expensive. I'm at the point now where I want touchscreens for everything. I can't tell you how many times I have reached here in my studio. I've just got traditional monitors and tried to touch the screens because I am so touchscreen driven at this point. So that may or may not be important to you. I'm at the point now where I want everything touchscreen. It's faster a lot of times, it's more intuitive, and it gives me more options. If you don't need that, you can save money by getting, a laptop or a 2-in-1 that is not a touchscreen. That's more money in your pocket that you can then put towards a better processor or whatever. So, again, I'm going to talk about, we'll talk about both. So if you're looking at Macs right now, I would strongly suggest that you only look at the M1s. Particularly if speed is important to you, whatever form factor you're going to get. The new M1s that have come out from Apple, hey Kelly, are definitely the way to go. And in some cases, many cases, the new M1s are cheaper than some of the old Macs, which are slower. So make your life easy and go ahead with the M1s if you're looking at the Mac. Okay, so Lyle has had a chance to type. So one thing about this, right? Okay, so you're looking for a PC. I'm a PC person. I'm sure you figured that out. Apple makes it out of date. Yeah, we could have a long conversation about the whole religious wars, but for me, it's all about I have this amount of money. I want this amount of benefit and functionality, and I'm never going to get that from Mac. I don't care what people say. But anyway, we'll be able to look. Probably it'll be fine with a 2-in-1. Probably need some email apps, office apps. Okay, so frankly, I bought this. Hey, excuse you. Thank you. So this is a Dell Inspiron. It's a 15-inch. It is the 2-in-1. Right, I keep showing you that. And it is 2-in-1. Forgot what the other thing was. Anyway, this cost me $900-ish. I bought this because a little while back I was partially incapacitated and I still need to be able to keep working. So for me, normally a 15-inch would drive me crazy, but because I needed something I could keep on my lap for hours at a time, this worked out really well. So that's another factor to think about when you're looking at the laptops is how big a screen do you need in order to be functional? Normally 15-inch would have driven me crazy. As I said, normally I need, 17 or larger. As you get bigger in screen size, you are definitely going to pay more money, and there is going to be more draw from your computer, right, to power that. I'm amazed at how much I love this little thing. It's a little heavy. It's a metal case, which is nice. Actually, I can prove that. Just have to find the right spot. Okay, so it keeps falling off, but it's a metal case. Oh, there we go. So magnetic stylus stays attached. Okay, it does not come with a stylus, but you can buy one at some point if you want to. This is a fully functional Windows machine, so you can load all of the things you're talking about. You can do, email apps, office apps, all that kind of stuff, no problem. It is quite speedy. I've even done some low-level video editing on it. Not super big stuff, but little things. I ended up loading Camtasia on here because I needed to do some video editing for work. And it handled it. Now, understand when I did that, because that's very demanding work, I shut everything else off, okay? I turned off Wi-Fi, I turned off all the background apps, and then it ran perfectly fine. So this is not a bad way to go. It is one of the ones that we were kind of looking at. So let me go back to, see, this is the problem. These styluses look the same. If it wasn't for the weight, I wouldn't know I grabbed the wrong one. So we'll just go and look at these real quick. Let me bring this up. Now, I'm not saying you have to buy Dell, obviously. There's a bunch of 2-in-1s. You could even buy 2-in-1s from Amazon, frankly. So, let's go here. Okay, so we've got... Now, also, just another pro tip when you're shopping. Look at the home computers and look at the business computers, because as their inventory changes, they'll do better deals on one side or the other, but properly configured, you can get both. If you're looking for something that's going to be pretty peppy, I would say go with at least, I would say basically stay away from the i5s. The i5s are going to be slower, okay? Now, of course, they're also going to be a little bit cheaper. So these are all i5s. I don't know if we're going to have to configure to get to the higher ones. Let's see. Okay, so here's the course i7s. So, frankly, this might be the one I got. So 970, give or take, right? So it's 11th gen. Oh no, that's the i5. Okay, so no, I might have gotten a good deal, because I have an i7. This has got Windows 10 Pro. I highly recommend getting Pro, especially if you're doing all those Office apps. That's a good way to go. It's got 8 gig of memory in it. It's got the solid state drive in it, which is awesome. So yeah, and I say heavy, it's about, 4 pounds probably. So this would be a good way to go. And, you can come in here and you can customize the daylights out of these things. Let's just look at another one. Yeah, so this is pretty good too. Now, as we get closer to Father's Day, so I'm recording this mid-May, close to the end of May. Wow, already. You will see... This is a good time to go shopping, Lyle, basically, is where I'm going. Because you're going to see deals on electronics for grads and dads. So if you have your resources ready and you kind of know what you're looking for, that would be a good way to go. And again, I'm just showing you Dell, HP, Samsung. There's a lot of good options out there. But so like this one here, let's see if you can configure this. Customize and buy. Customize and buy. Okay, so let's see. Proactive, yeah, I would stick with that. That's a good thing. It's got 16 gig of memory. That's totally great. If you want, to boost it a little bit, more memory is always a good thing. So 32 for $180, not bad. This is, just so you know, something you can upgrade usually in a laptop. You got to get the right screws and all that kind of stuff. But if you can only afford to get the 16 now, that will work for you, I'm sure. If you find that you want to do a little bit more with the computer than you expected, you might want to upgrade. And sometimes, very often, you can find compatible memory at a better price. So that's not a bad way to go. Let's see. So this has got the 256 solid state drive in it. Again, if you can... go a little bit bigger. I would try to go for the 512, $160. Again, it's up to you and your situation, but I would certainly consider that. This is a little place where you can, cut back a little bit. So this is the full out awesome, monitor. If you can do without, if you don't need touch, that'll save you $16, but that could make the difference. Let's see what else. The backlight keyboard. Okay, so that is something So obviously, right, I'm on a kick about colored keyboards. I don't know where it started, but it's been a thing lately. So I did get the colored keyboard for this. Let me see if you can, are you going to see the problem? I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on screen, but let's try it. Well, you're kind of getting the effect here. So on this particular unit, the color is actually terrible. And so many times I come in here and I turn it off. Am I going to be able to find that here? Here. Okay, yeah, you're not really able to tell here, but because, oh, actually you can. Okay. So because of, I guess, the way the keys are designed or whatever, it is much better on this laptop to not have the lights on. So I would go, knowing what I know now, I would save the $28 and make that go away. It looks like it's required for something else. We could go back and figure that out. You know, the wireless thing, you know, I usually leave the default. Mobile broadband, you probably don't need. So, you know, we're looking at like, you know, $1,500 for this, but this would be a machine that does the job for you. And there's lots of other ones. So anything, you know, along those lines would probably work really well for you. Callie's all about, well, Callie's actually building a laptop, not a laptop, building a computer in the world's most awesome case. You really should go follow her, because I'm hoping she's going to share the process with us, because, oh my God, it's so cool. I don't know what it's about the color keyboards, but yeah, I love them. I now have them on all of my main systems. I was so disappointed that this one, it does not work. Well, it's not, you know what it is? It's not backlit like this is. Really, the lighting on this one, and I probably, if I made the room darker, you would be able to see it better. But when I don't have it on, it looks like the keys are, you know, painted, you know, black, so you can see what they are. But when I turn it on, the keys turn white. So it's like the letters themselves are the most lit things. There's sort of a little bit around the outlines, and there's not enough contrast between the color of the letters, and you can't change it, and the color of the key. I think that's what the problem is. I think if these keys were black, it would probably be awesome. But because these keys are a very light silver and the light is white, basically, it makes the letters almost invisible on it. And I'm not a touch typist. I will never be a touch typist. So, yeah. So there is all of that. Oh, cool. She's going to share the process. Woohoo! I'm so cool. I'm excited about that. I'm not even going to tell you guys. You guys just have to go and check out this mega awesome case that she's going to build this computer out of. It is so freaking cool. I've never seen anything like it. I'm so excited. Yeah, so does that help, Lyle? If you have any specific questions, feel free, go ahead and let me know. But yeah, I would say, you know, you need to decide if you want 15 or a 17 inch. If you're comfortable with the 15 inch, you're going to save money that way. And then, you know, decide about the touch screen or not and that type of thing. And that can save a day. If you figure on maybe, you know, $1,000, $1,200, you can probably get yourself a system that you're going to be very happy with. And like I said, if you wait another week or so, you're going to start to see all these deals for graduation and for Father's Day. Jump on there. You don't have to be a graduate or a father in order to make the most of these deals. If you get to the point where you're configuring it out, and if you don't know the difference between the i7, the i9, the i5, let me know and I'll explain that a little bit more. i7 is absolutely, you know, the middle of the road, good way to go. i5, I think because speed is important to you, I don't think you're going to like it. I go for the i9 because I want that little bit of extra speed. That helps. Awesome. Okay, great. I'm so glad. So that for me, you know, like for me, it's worth an extra, you know, $100, $200 to get at least the i7. If I can get the i9, I'm much happier in general. Yeah, so look for the sales. That's definitely the way to go. Also, if you qualify for something like ID.me or, you know, you can use Rakuten or something, you can get a little bit extra off of it, which is nice, especially when it's coming off the price itself. And then I have used many times the Dell 12 months same as cash thing. That for me has kept me from making bad computer choices. Like, I even did that with this because I wasn't really sure with the whole working from home, and was I going to be able to do it, and was I going to end up, you know, on disability for a while. Fortunately, none of that happened, but okay, you do know the difference. Great. So I ordered this and I put it on the 12 months same as, just to give myself that window. And then when I, spent a month working with it and I was able to churn out the same amount of work and nobody knew the difference, I just paid it off. But it was nice to have that, a little bit of cushion in case it was a little tighter than I was expecting, because everything was nuts for a while. So that's good. I hope you'll come back and let us know what you end up getting, because I always like to hear about what other people got. Dell is good, HP is good, Samsung is good, Asus is a good way to go. Just check the reviews, because there have been a couple models that were not as great, but most of them are overall are quite good. So there's a lot of variety out there. You can actually find really good ones out on Amazon. So let's see. 2-in-1 Windows laptop. Let's see what they bring up. The one thing when you order from a place like, or you shop in a place like Amazon, Best Buy, anything like that, check the date of the machine, because a lot of times they're giving you these great deals, and when you really look at it, you see it's a machine that's like 4 years old. You don't want to spend $1,000 on a 4-year-old machine, right? If you're spending $1,000, you want a machine that was built in the past year or so. Take that into account too. So $1,000. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's an i5. So let's go over here. Usually they give us a way to say, I hate that I do that all the time. Also, and I know there are people going to argue with me, feel free to argue in the comments, I would stay away from AMD, and also this Celeron, all this, I would stick with the Intel cores. So let's do the i7. Just real quick, the reason I say that is because while most of those other chips are fine, developers are testing off of the i7, i5, the core in Intel, and if they have to make a choice between making their software work really well with that or another thing, they're always going to go with the Intel right now, because that's the one that's super popular and the most powerful. So just putting that out there. Okay, so here's a Dell i7. Yeah, see, 12 megabytes of RAM. That's not enough, but that is something you can upgrade. 256, and it's, $950. So it's whether or not you want to, mess around with upgrading the memory yourself or not. And again, do go and take a look at the prices. Lenovo, they're pretty good. Let's see what they've got here. It's a 4-core i7. 16 gig of memory, 942. That's not bad. As long as it's a fairly current one, that would be okay. So you do have a lot of options. There's a lot of comparison shopping you can do. All my Stylus people, there we go. So you do, the lovely thing is that you do have a ton of options out there. So you should be able to find something in your price range that will give you the power. Just stay away from the i5s. All right? Okay. Let me just flip through it and make sure I covered all of my notes, because... Oh, so Callie, you missed this. I had a power outage about, 10, 15 minutes into the show? That was great fun. But I don't know if I got back on, or maybe the computer didn't go all the way down. For some reason, I was able to get back on and keep going. So, yes. Hey, Ultra Boostered, how are you doing? Good to see you. We haven't seen you guys in a while. We haven't seen you in a while. All right, so let me just check my notes. I think I have covered everything. If you have any questions, now is the time. Okay, yep, we talked about all that stuff. Good, we got it. Woohoo! Even with the power outage, we got it all done. Maybe I'll leave this up and we'll see how people feel about watching a show implode. All right, everybody. As I said before, if you have any questions, if you need suggestions, guidance, whatever, go ahead and reach out. There it is. YourTechCoach.net. There's a contact form there. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can also throw your questions, comments, ideas for future shows in the comments on whatever platform you're watching. I always come back and look at those and answer you folks as fastly as I can. I'm inventing words today. As fastly as I can. All I ask is if you do use the website, please give me a way to get back in touch with you if you need a fast answer. Otherwise, you'll just have to keep watching the shows, because I'll come and answer them here. Does that make sense? That makes sense. I think that was almost English. And of course, there's this, if you're finding this helpful, this will let you know when I'm on. Can you get an i7 260 for 1K? So graphics cards, and I know this is why you're asking, graphics cards are mega expensive right now for multiple reasons. Part of it is Bitcoin. Part of it is what's been going on in the world, and everybody's needing, gear and computers and all that kind of stuff. So right now, that might be a little tough, mainly because of the graphics card. If you can be a little flexible about the graphics card, and or, you know, if you get a, yeah, so that's, yeah, so because you should start to see some deals over the next few weeks, you might be able to. If you are flexible about that graphics card, you probably can get closer to the mark. Also, it's going to depend, like, you know, it's more than that. It's, you know, the memory in it, it's the size of the monitor, you know, there's other factors to it, but yeah, the thing that I think is going to trip you up if you're trying to hit that number right now is the graphics card. If you can be a little more flexible, then yeah, you can get something in that range. Not lower, definitely a little higher. So you're gonna have to go back, Ultra Booster, and then you get to enjoy all of the chaos that went on in this stream. Or you can reach out to me, and I'm happy to have this conversation. But there's a lot of factors, like what are you going to need it for? You know, do you want a laptop or do you want a desktop? What kind of hardware are you gonna? What kind of software are you gonna run on it? All of those things factor into what is the best answer for you. So you can go back and watch the earlier part of this, and if you still have questions, by all means, reach out. I'm more than happy to help you walk your way through this, which you know. All right, everybody, I've got to go and take the puppy out. So I am here every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, assuming we have power, and I bring a different topic every week. You're always welcome to come and ask other questions and all that. I just bring a topic so we have something to talk about. If you have questions, comments, all that kind of stuff, feel free to go ahead, if you're watching this on the replay, throw it into the comments and or reach out on the website, and I'm happy to help you. You're looking for gaming and schooling stuff. Okay, but you know, gaming being, you know, like solitaire, or gaming being like high-end stuff. If you're talking like high-end gaming, you're not going to be happy. But yeah, you can go ahead and message and we can have this conversation. But, you know, if you're talking about big time, you know, intensive gaming, $1,000 machine is not going to cut it for you. Unless, no, it's not. A little bit more than that, if you're not having to buy a monitor and keyboard, if you're going to reuse that kind of stuff, maybe you can get a little closer that way. But yeah, let's we can message, we can have that conversation. Okay, you know I love talking this stuff. All right, everybody, thank you so much for coming by. I do appreciate it. I really appreciate, you know, John and Lyle sticking through all of the chaos that went on in this show. And for you folks who joined late, you should go back and watch, because oh my god, we brought the chaos. But hopefully I also helped you figure out, you know, what questions you need to think about as you decide what is going to be the best device for you. Okay, Ultra Booster, probably not a good candidate for the Chromebook. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I will see you next week. Bye.